A modern civil service.
Modern civil service.
A modern civil service.
To me, a modern civil service is one that's ready to lead the UK through the next big challenges.
People that reflect the society that we serve, designing services built around the customer to deliver the outcomes they need.
Skilled.
Innovative.
Ambitious.
A modern civil service.
Hi everyone and welcome to our Modern Civil Service podcast. As you might be able to hear, I am not your usual host. I am Gaia Marcus, Head of Transformation and Engagement for Modernisation and Reform, and I'm joined by Andrew, James and Rory from the Interoperability programme. Don't worry, one of my first questions will be, what exactly is interoperability? But before we jump into that, would you be able to introduce yourselves, please?
Hi there, I'm James Peart. I'm a digital service owner in Government Business Services. I look after part of the Interoperability One Data programme.
Hi there, I'm Andrew McVicar. I'm the Deputy Director for Interoperability in Government Business Services, and I'm covering both the One Data programme but also the interoperability portfolio, which is a number of different business units bringing together in one place to work together to deliver the interoperability vision across government.
And I'm Rory Macdonald. I'm the head of the One IT programme led out of the Central Digital and Data Office.
Right, so let's kick things off with an easy one. For people who may not be aware of the programme or what it means in practice, what exactly is interoperability?
So it's about enabling a seamlessly connected government where civil servants are able to access the right information, the right people and the right skills that we need when we need them.
Fantastic. Joining things up, making things easier.
Exactly.
Putting all that data and process into the background almost.
Cutting out some of the frustration and the difficulties in trying to work with colleagues across the civil service.
Brilliant. And Andrew, can you give us a feel for where this ambition came from? How did this start?
Yeah, so it's been around for quite a while, and it's been something that's been discussed by a lot of ourselves, our colleagues, and quite a number of people across the wider government. But what really came to the fore was during COVID, we all had to change the way we worked overnight. And everyone realised that we had these really difficult barriers to overcome. And that kind of gave us a real drive to how do we remove those, how do we make things simple, how do we work together as one. One of the great examples of this was everyone tried to go out and get video conferencing, teleconferencing and get all those systems set up really quickly, which led to everyone procuring different systems, different routes, and none of them worked together. So if you're working with colleagues in different departments, you were on Zoom, they were on Teams, they were on Google, and people on other systems as well. And that led to the challenge of how do we work together in a scenario like COVID where we needed to work together. So the programme really kind of got bootstrapped there of how do we bring everyone together, how do we make that work, how do we coalesce onto a smaller set of systems that can work together so that we can all collaborate and share and innovate and deliver for the public. And that really was kind of what the driving force was to start a lot of what we're trying to do here. And that's kind of expanded into the wider, how do we make life easier for civil servants as a whole, which is where the interoperability portfolio has came from, covering a wide range of things from looking at data and systems and how we share information about us in the back office, about you, who you are, what you know, where you're based, all that kind of good information we already have about you, how we join systems together, make it easier to collaborate, share and work together, how we make it easier for you to access the resources that you need to in government, so the ability to access buildings, or making our HR processes simpler and more consistent so it doesn't matter where you work in government, you can access a very similar capability. And it makes it easy if you do move around the system to different departments, things are familiar rather than new and jarring and different. So it's really been born out of there.
Great. So as a civil servant, what will this all mean to me in practice? Like what day-to-day changes might I see?
So I can start. So one of the strands we're working on is called staff transfers. At the minute, it's easier to hire someone externally than it is to actually move between departments, which is just wrong. So what we're trying to do is simplify that process. We're going to take what is currently a very clunky spreadsheet and process around it, which takes an awfully long time and a lot of errors. We're going to replace that with a new digital service, which is simpler, means you only answer the questions you need to. You'll be able to see where you are in the process. If it gets stuck for any reason, you'll be able to see where that is, chase it up, unblock it and keep it moving. And hopefully, and as a result of this, get through to your new department much quicker.
Fantastic. Will this mean less emails about clearance levels, chasing pay, all that kind of thing?
Well, less need to send emails, you actually get emails telling you where it is, which is a big change at the minute, because at the minute what you'll get is various people sending emails to someone else without you knowing. So you then spend a lot of time chasing up the people who you think are doing something and might not be. So if ours, what you have is something which shows you where it is and actually just tells you, rather than you having to chase it up all the time.
Fantastic. So changing departments will be a lot easier thanks to interoperability. What about work when you're in a department?
So from an IT perspective, we've really focused on enabling better collaboration for civil servants working across government boundaries, in particular cutting out those computer says no moments, where you really need to share some information or speak to somebody in another organisation, and for whatever reason, you just can't, so you default back to the old methods of emails and attachments. We've done a bunch of user research and we identified the core elements of collaboration that we believe are absolutely fundamental to a modern civil service. The ability to instant message people in other organisations, the ability to join focused project sites, whether that's a Microsoft Teams site or something else, cutting out the need for third-party tools and extra logins and accounts just to share information. We think civil servants should be able to share their calendar availability so that they can book meetings easier between colleagues in different organisations. And also, really importantly, is about sharing documents as links and being able to co-author documents instead of sending endless attachments between different colleagues.
Fantastic. And for a colleague on the line, what kind of timings are we looking at? How soon will they be able to see those changes?
So we're focusing on Microsoft 365 at the moment. Most of government departments are using that platform. And we have a number of organisations currently working on implementation of a baseline standard that we've put in place that was published earlier this year, and we believe that over the next 18 months we can move most of government towards that collaboration standard.
Brilliant. So if you're currently working on an Office 365 platform or soon to move on to an Office 365 platform, is that interoperability and a modern civil service in practice?
It's in practice in certain organisations, and we'll see an exponential increase in how it works. The more organisations that join it, the richer connections we'll be able to form, and we'll see that network effect going across government. The key is always going to be adoption, and it's really difficult to encourage people and make them aware of these changes and how they can make the most of them as they appear.
Fantastic. So we've heard about how interoperability will make it easier to change roles, will make it a lot more streamlined to work with colleagues both within your department and across departments. What about just, getting into buildings?
Yeah, so that one's, again, actually one that we've got in practice just now. So a number of buildings in our state are now enabled in what we call GovPass. So this is moving to the concept of one pass, which gives you your ID, but also gives you access to buildings. Not every building, for those that are security conscious, only the buildings you've got been authorised to access. So you can't just wander into any site, and especially higher security sites. But that will mean that we move away from this concept of having your pass, another government department pass for certain buildings, visitors pass every time you visit a new site, having that one bit of plastic, which is great actually from a sustainability point of view. We don't have thousands of bits of plastic being generated every year just for the sake of you visiting new sites. But it's also brilliant from a cost point of view, because each one of those cards is actually quite expensive because it's got a chip inside it. So having one, rather than having a whole set of them around your neck, if you visit a number of buildings on a regular basis, is really good from a cost point of view for us as well. And it's just so much simpler. Imagine not having to queue at reception every time you're visiting a new building to sign in, explain who you're going to visit. That's going to free up the security staff's time, it's going to free up yours. You're just going to be able to go in, new building, I know where I'm going, in I go, sorted. It's going to be a big change. And coming from the private sector, I've actually had this experience previously, and it's quite jarring not having that now. I really miss it. I used to be able to access 5,500 buildings with very little friction. And that's, for me, is going to be a really big thing. It's going to be a really good thing for those that visit lots of different sites on a regular basis, because you'll just be able to go in straight in the door and get set up, work, meet the teams that you need out there to meet. And it's going to be really, really nice and easy and simple. And that's really the key to it. It's going to be simple and easy for you to just access the buildings and use them. And kind of paired up with that is the standards we're trying to build around the buildings themselves, so that all of our estate has a basic level of kit there for you, so that you can use that regardless of your department, regardless of what laptop you have, whether it's Mac, PC, it'll work. So you can come in and just get to work. A number of you have seen this as well in practicing things like Gov Wi-Fi, which is prevalent in most of our buildings now, including government, local government, our devolved administrations, and our ALBs as well, picking up on that standard, so that you can just walk in, set up and use your laptop without having to think, what's the guest password, how do I get in here, what's going on. So it's really about making life really easy for us to use our buildings, our estate in the most effective way.
Brilliant. So we've heard about how moving departments will be easier, how working in departments technologically will be easier on common platforms, physically moving between estates, between offices will be a lot easier thanks to GovPass. But what about our careers? What are we doing to kind of aid the careers of civil servants and make those as seamless as possible?
So one of the new services we're working on is called Skills and Campus, or Skills and Campus Online. And that's really about creating it so that you've got a profile for your whole kind of person, your career, which captures everything about you, all your skills, experience, qualifications, roles, and that will follow you throughout your whole journey. So rather than creating this new each time you join a department, it'll follow you, and through that you'll get access to a much broader learning offer, so the entire learning catalogue for government. You'll also get personalised learning suggestions, you'll get access to peer communities, communities of interest, and through that you get this much richer experience. With that, what's crucial is that's going to tie into things like workforce planning, so how government gets the right skills where we need them, moves people to where they need to be. It helps you as an individual develop your careers, your skills, find roles you could be suited for which you've never even considered yet, and move between professions, and also help us improve the learning offer. So one of the things at the minute, it's really difficult to really pick out those really good learning interventions, those courses which really have an impact. So with this, we'll have all the data, we'll be able to track it, see what's working, and make sure that everything available is to the best standard and the best quality, is constantly improving.
Fantastic. So this sounds like a really key way in which interoperability, which sounds quite technical, is actually helping build a skilled civil service.
It is, and it's a big change because it takes away the model we've got now, where you've got lots of individual departments, professions, all creating their own skills profiles, which are individual, which can't join up. And as a result, each of these collections has a kind of very blinkered or limited view of who you are. So one collection might look at your profession, so what skills you have tied to that particular profession. It wouldn't talk about what skills you've got from previous jobs, perhaps in the private sector, or perhaps skills you've developed outside of work. So what we're trying to do is bring all that together, so we look at each individual holistically and see everything they're capable of, and develop them as a whole rather than a very limited subset.
Fantastic. Now you mentioned the public. So I think interoperability is a programme that, as you said, is really about making things easier and more seamless for civil servants. But what will this mean to the public? Will it benefit them? What will the impact be?
Yeah, so from this one, because what we're trying to do, we're trying to make it easier for civil servants to actually work and collaborate and get access to the data, the systems, the tools they need to do their job. By removing these barriers, these frustrations, it's allowing us to focus more on delivering the services that we need to deliver. So I think Rory put this really nicely. It's less about computers saying no and it enabling you to get the work done that you need to do to deliver, which is going to make it better for us because we'll spend the time focusing on the things the public needs rather than frustrated by the system getting in our way. And that to me is going to be one of the big things that people won't necessarily attribute back to what we're doing, but it'll just happen for them so that it will be easier for them to get the job done.
Fantastic. So a more efficient, cost-effective government, because we're spending more time on the things that matter and less time on the process that can sometimes get in the way.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. It's about a more efficient and effective civil service where we can do our jobs better and quicker, make decisions based on the information at our fingertips, and work better together no matter where we're located. But I think really importantly, it's also about a better employee experience. You know, cutting out the frustration, letting the work coach get on and do their day job instead of worrying about all the forms they've got to fill in order to just get access to the right tools and systems.
So actually, linking your example of the job coach, but also thinking to your earlier point, James, on staff transfers, what I'm really getting from this is there are so many processes that take up so much of our time. So actually, when this really starts coming into its own as a programme, we're just talking about immense amounts of staff time, therefore morale, encouragement, but also public money that we're able to free up to just do the things that the state should be doing, instead of spending so much of our time on processes that have just become too cumbersome.
It's also the personal experience. So when we've been doing research with people for staff transfers, we've had people who are terrified of moving jobs because it's such a painful process at the minute. They will either not move and just stay where they are, which, great, we keep them in place, but they're not developing, they're not growing, or they leave government entirely, and it's a real waste to lose all that skill and experience for a simple reason of the process is too painful.
So this is a really huge programme of work which will fundamentally change the civil servant experience, I think, of just working for government. Is there anything that's happening along the way to fix smaller issues whilst we really deal with the plumbing and big infrastructure problems?
That's a really important point. If we're going to achieve this, we need to do it step by step. So going back to staff transfers, some of the changes we're making along the way are changing the process which is already there. So I talked about how we're dealing with these huge spreadsheets. What we've done is strip those down, simplify it, take out some of the really clunky sections which just weren't even needed. So data which we didn't actually use anyway in the process. We've also looked at the guidance. So when we looked at the guidance and did more research with people, we're finding that to actually work through that guidance, the reading level is equivalent to something like a postgraduate degree. So for most of us who are reading this very quickly alongside our day job and we're trying to get through a tricky process, it's far too complicated. We've changed all that. So we've taken these 60-page PDF documents and replaced those with new web pages, which are far simpler, stripped down, they allow you to skim it and jump to the relevant sections. And that means that anyone can read it really quickly and easily. And in the analytics we've been looking at already, we've seen a huge uptake in the number of people using it. We're seeing people come back to it all the time, and the feedback we're getting has been really overwhelmingly positive. Now that doesn't solve the problem we've talked about, the big one around actually having a complicated process, but it's a really important step forward where, while we're working towards a much better, simpler process, we can at least make what we've got today better and easier.
Fantastic. Are there any other areas of work where people should already start seeing some changes and know that it's actually down to interoperability?
So I've got an example from the One IT programme, the Civil Service Data Challenge. We saw over 100 colleagues from across government in various cross-government teams all collaborating over now 2 rounds of the data challenge. And they're working within Microsoft Teams sites, project sites that have been put in place using the interoperable standard. So that ability to bring people together from across the civil service into focused work digital sites, that's interoperability at work.
Fantastic. So what should we be looking out for in the next 12 months? What big things are we going to see that tell us that interoperability is working and making our lives easier?
So I think the key things you'll start to see over the next 12 months, we'll see the improvements to the staff transfers process, moving to that digital service, and that really hopefully making it a much simpler and more seamless experience for all of us. We'll see great collaboration through what we're trying to do in the Microsoft world, the 365 just now, in their collaboration blueprint, which will make it easier for people to work together, and really hoping that will get provide us a nice seamless journey for people to collaborate, share, and even doing simple things like booking a meeting with someone in another department. I can't tell you the number of times just now that I play email ping pong to arrange a date. It's beyond number. And it always seems to be 3, 4, 5 emails before you get down to a date that works for everyone. So being able to actually go into someone's calendar and put in a meeting at a time that you're both free will be a wonderful thing. And I am really looking forward to that. So I think Rory gets pestered on a regular basis by me to say, when do I get this? When? But that really will be coming down the road at a rate of knots now. Actually, we're going to have some real focused drive in the next 3 months with Microsoft to really put a booster up this and help departments get onto the standard and adopt it and bring their services up to the level that will allow this to happen.
Fantastic. Look, I think that's a great note to start wrapping up on. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. And we always do this as a wrap-up question. What does a modern civil service mean to you?
I think exactly everything we've just talked about is trying to make it so that it's easier to be a civil servant without all the kind of complex processes, the unnecessary load, so that we can actually focus on what we're here to do, which is generally speaking to help serve the public need, whatever that means.
Yeah, for me as well, it's making sure that we grow and develop the individuals and the teams that we have and provide them the tools, the learning offering, and the opportunities to make the best use of their skills, whether that's on the work they're doing today or on cross-cutting initiatives across government, and giving them those opportunities by removing the barriers that we have today.
I'd say for me it's about making better use of the technology that we already have at our fingertips, and also emerging technology to bring the civil service into the modern age and start working in these newer ways that bring about opportunities to work better.
So thank you to all our listeners today. I hope you've enjoyed this primer to interoperability, or joining things up to make things easier for civil servants. If you know someone who's living our vision of a modern civil service, has ideas to share, or can provide brilliant examples of being more skilled, innovative and ambitious, please do get in touch.